Good evening, and welcome to Soluble, America's Political Central. To all our viewers and listeners out here, we'd like to give you a verbal notification. Sometimes, every once in a while here, our daily business that we handle to put food on the table, make sure the bills are paid, sometimes it interferes with our afternoon broadcast. And regrettably, that's what happened this past Friday when we were to do issue day. And that issue day was going to be entitled Crimes Against Children in America. But as I said, our daily works sometimes interfere. Our schedule gets the best of us. We get overrun, and it happens. And such was the case this past Friday. So we apologize. And there's the verbal notification. We're trying our best to stay on schedule with all things that are broadcast, that are verbally broadcast out to you from day to day, from podcast to podcast. So with that being said, let's get into the current state of politics, the political events going on in America today. We still got the stormy weather going on. These floods are still happening weekly here. We have the war in Ukraine going on. The AR-15 is trying to rear its ugly head again. We got redacted affidavits that have been released by the FBI concerning the raid on Mar-a-Lago and the reasons why. So those are, pretty much the headlines going on in America today. Oh, let's not forget teachers in America, the teacher shortage that we're facing in this country. So starting it off on the top as best we can, as I said, the storms, they're still coming. There's no one-off solution that we can think of here at Soluble, other than, from our best point of view, dealing with truth, trying to find a solution, is to try to get on board with climate change. If this is our last best hope. No evidence has been offered to the contrary as to why these events are happening all over the world. I mean, we know at the end of the day, God is in charge and he's in control of everything, and he won't put more on us than we can stand. But if this is where we're at now, from the time of an inconvenient truth to here now, with all these flooding events every other week, flooding neighborhoods, causing loss of life, property. The best that we feel here on this broadcast is to let's really look into the science of climate change. And if this is man-made, if we're using our open air environment like an open sewer, as stated by former VP Gore, then we have to do whatever it takes, whatever sacrifices we have to make. Give us the technology as fast as possible for renewable energy. I was looking into some things political, and I see that Senator Manchin, he's heavily enacted into the legislation of some of the latest bills that's passed, leases for the fossil fuel industry, even though these events are still happening. So, here at Soluble, we feel like we really need to try to speed up the technology when it comes to renewable energy, whether it's wind, solar, or what have you. We really need to, if the technology is there, enhance it. Get on board with enhancing it. Even if we could, throw money behind these catastrophic events, then what good is that if next year comes around and we find ourselves going through the same thing again? It's not sustainable to throw money at this problem year after year. So we have to look further now for a better solution. And, in times of crisis like this, America's always rose to the challenge. So, I mean, it remains to be seen now. Can we have bipartisanship? I mean, we're asking all West Virginians to look into the possible cozy relationship that Senator Manchin has with the fossil fuel industry in West Virginia and beyond. And let's bring it into the hands of the voters, because clearly, we don't see Senator Manchin all on board with climate change. I mean, it would probably be one thing if he pushed for renewable energy technology just as much as still throwing money into the fossil fuel industries. I mean, that's not to say it's going to expand. Maybe there are just new leases that are going on to renew some of the current leases that are already out there, and not opening up new grounds for drilling or new areas for going into the earth for fossil fuels. We're asking, we're appealing to any of our listeners. If we have any in West Virginia, any Democratic listeners, I mean, this is his home state, West Virginia. So, I mean, it starts with you. It starts with you. Nothing can better explain it right now. There's no other argument against climate change. I mean, there's nothing to say that no, it's not climate change, is this, or it's not climate change, is that. So all the scientific geniuses, all the scientific fingers, all the evidence is pointing towards the fossil fuel industry releasing an exorbitant amount of CO2s into the atmosphere, and this is where we're at. It's like the atmosphere is revolting now. It's like, when you've had too much to drink, something has to give. Sometimes you have to throw up. That's kind of where we're at it seems, with what's going on in the atmosphere. It's so full of CO2s that it's kind of revolting now, and it's giving it back to us in a devastating way with these floods every other week. So now it's Mississippi. I mean, what can we do? There's GoFundMe, but the main thing that we need to do is look at it from a federal government point of view, and a brainstorming of the think tank, or the think tanks, if you will, to try to bring an end to this every other week, every 2 weeks, once a month, or whatever. It's too much. It's too much. These storms are coming, early and often. And where does the buck stop? We don't know unless we take climate change seriously. That's going to be step number one in solving the situation that we're in. I mean, there's no doubt about it. The weather is becoming more intense. It's rapidly intensifying, whereas, it starts out in a calm manner. So, there's something definitely going on there. Whatever we can do besides, thoughts and prayers for the citizens of Mississippi, Texas, Kentucky, just to name a few. Here in my home state, city of Jacksonville, Florida, we had a flooding event here several weeks ago that was devastating to car owners, some homeowners, but more, car owners in a parking lot that was flooded. Brand new vehicles, up-to-date nice vehicles just simply flooded out. So, the storms are coming. They're coming continuously. And it's going to be up to humankind now to see if we can stick together. We're not going to politicize it. I mean, but we are saying that, Democrats and Republicans need to come together and try to form some kind of a bipartisan solution to what's going on as far as the climate and what it's doing to everyday American lives. I mean, it's already hard enough out here. Rent's going up. Wages are down. So, what's the person to do? Everybody has a breaking point. So we're asking federal government, we're asking our lawmakers on both sides of the aisles to try to come together, to try to come up with a common sense solution to combat climate change, or common sense solution to help these people who've been washed out maintain until it gets better for them, until they can better get back on their feet. You know, whether we're throwing more money to the Red Cross, or just in the forms of federal aid, and as far as loans are concerned. But that is unsustainable. As I said, we need to really take a hard look at climate change, look at the sciences behind it, and it's worth a try. You know, before we say, well, you know, climate change is a hoax, climate change is a myth. At this rate, at the rate that the storms are coming now, and they're disrupting everyday life, it's worth a try. It's worth a try. You know, to back climate change to the fullest. You know, to see what happens in a year or two. You know, as far as America is concerned, it's worth it to give it a 5-year trial with every American cooperating. With every American cooperating. So, you know, that's our take on the storms that are in the news today right now. As I said, Mississippi seems to be getting the brunt of it as the storm moves from west to east. So, like I said, let's rally behind climate change, because what else do we have right now? Concrete. So we're asking everybody to get on board there. Moving on to the war in Ukraine. It's now in its 6th month, pushing towards 7. I mean, what a madman. What can I say? What a madman. And we thank our lucky stars that, you know, we have a president in office now who is not someone Putin can consider weak or a puppet of his. You know, a president in office who has freedom to operate, and he does so with a willingness and determination. And, you know, there's nothing that Putin can say or do to make this president cater to him. He has no hold over this president. Where the secret happenings, you know, when Biden visited Russia in years gone by, anything, any dirt, anything to hold over this president. And, you know, the president is doing his job, but the war rages on. You know what lunacy, what craziness it is to threaten a nuclear power plant. At what lengths? At what lengths will the leader of Russia go? Now, from what it seems, it's either a stalemate or Ukraine's on the offensive. And it's at best a stalemate. And, you know, without using some weapon of mass destruction, some kind of barbaric weapon, short of that, the leader of Russia cannot take the country. So here at Soluble, we recommend coming to the negotiation table now. Coming to the negotiating table, swallowing one's pride, and sitting down at the table of negotiation with President Zelensky. Because the Ukrainians, we see by all accounts, are fighters. They're determined fighters. They're crafty fighters. They're guerrilla fighters. And this is what one does when one has a love for country. Who knows where this will drag out, for how long? Take civilians off the table. You know, we're asking the leader of Russia here at Soluble not to target civilians, to say the least. To say the least. You know, don't target civilians in this war. Where do we go from here? You know, I mean, to make war or to threaten a nuclear power plant in the act of engaging in war is just madness. It's just absolute madness. And once again, not to politicize, but here at Soluble, we feel strongly that had the former president taken Ukraine seriously, then the leader of Russia would have had to have taken it serious also. That's the power that one has when he's the leader of the free world. Excuse me. But that's the power one has when he's the leader of the free world. But instead, the former president tried to bribe the leader of the country, didn't take the country seriously when it comes to getting money for defense to the country that had already been sent by the American taxpayers. But the former president treated it like it was money of his own, thereby, as I said before, causing the leader of Russia to take Ukraine for granted, to not take Ukraine seriously as a country. So I think, there is some truth to the fact that had the former president spoken out or stood strong with Ukraine, it's very possible that we wouldn't be in this situation that we are now. But nevertheless, here we are. So where do we go from here? As I said here at Soluble, we feel like the answer is the negotiation table now. After 6 months, pushing into 7, it doesn't seem to be an end in sight. So, as I said, the Ukrainians are fighters. And we don't feel that the country can be taken anything short of a weapon of mass destruction, which would just, not be what one would think of from a country that claims to be a superpower or a superpower wannabe. Russia has superiority in numbers, treasure. They have superiority in military equipment. So where do you go from here as it relates to the leader of Russia? Ukraine is going to fight. They're not going to give up. Whether they're bringing in fighters from around the world to rally to their cause, or whether it's, soldiers from right at home. Ukraine is a country that will not fall to Russia anytime soon. So, it may be hard, being that Russia has superiority in a lot of areas. It may be hard to, swallow one's pride to come to the negotiation table. But nevertheless, here at Soluble, we feel like that's where it's at. Enough already. It's not even good. It's not even in Russia's best interest. Though you'll probably never hear the leader of Russia say that. But, here at Soluble, we feel like it's time to swallow one's pride and come to the negotiation table. It's not what you thought it was going to be. You're not in Kyiv. You haven't been able to overthrow and replace. And, it goes on for no goodwill. It doesn't serve no goodwill on either side. By a lot of accounts, the Russian troop morale is in the tanks. It's in the toilet. It's low. By some accounts, the Russian soldiers are self-sabotaging, self-wound inflicting, to not even go into combat. So, with maybe a little pressure from the right, and this is, once again, not to politicize, but you can't be the leader of the free world and not speak out every chance you get for a free country, which is what Ukraine is. It's a free country, just like America. And for them to be invaded, and we not have our leaders from both sides of the aisle doing all they can, working together to end this war. Because we're borderline madness now with the situation that we have here at the power plant in Zaporizhzhia. We don't need a meltdown. I mean, we where is the neutral ground here? Is there anything in the Geneva Convention that says, there could be no war waged around nuclear facilities or any facilities of this magnitude? It's madness. It's total madness with what's going on. But nevertheless, I know that the United States will continue to commit aid, whether it be military, whether it be financial, whether it be humanitarian, in the forms of food, clothing, or anything of that nature. We'll continue to back a free Ukraine. And, that's what we want at the end of the day, for a country that started out free and continues to be free after this unnecessary invasion, this unwarranted invasion in Ukraine. So from Soluble to our political leaders here in America, we need bipartisanship here more than ever. We need a bipartisan push to strengthen our allies. If so be it, if NATO expands, so be it. We should be for anything that strengthens humanity, that protects humanity. So, the ball's in your court. But more than ever, we need bipartisanship, a solidarity, if you will, between the two parties on a stance for ending the war in Ukraine, on a stance for freedom for all Ukrainians. We need solidarity there. Bipartisan solidarity, we think, will go a long ways in bringing our allies together, strengthening the Ukrainian resolve, and hopefully common sense will prevail, and we can get the leader of Russia to the negotiation table. Moving on to the shooting that we had this week, past couple days ago. Thank God that, there are only 3 people, but that's 3 too many, even if one of them is the shooter. The loss of life on any level is always a sad event. It's always a somber occasion. Violence is not the answer. Now, the weapon of choice, once again, is the AR-15. So here you have the AR-15, once again, rearing its ugly head. And there's, no common sense gun legislation in place, being brought to the floor to strip Americans of the right to carry semi-automatic weapons. Now, as I said before, there was a time when the British were coming and the natives were restless. But those times are long gone now. Those times are long gone now. I mean, let's be honest here, because at Soluble, that's where we're at, oftentimes, well, really all the time, when you're trying to solve something or trying to get to the bottom of something, the truth is the best thing to deal with. So, let's just put it out there with this AR-15. Like I said, it seems to be the weapon of choice, semi-automatic weaponry that American citizens are free to own and use against their own. Now, if the AR-15 is a weapon that can save the great Caucasian race at the end of the day, then, why can't we just lock them all away? Have them stockpiled. And in that day of trouble, in that day of threatening to be overran, then, the weapons can be passed out to ordinary, average, everyday citizens in America to defend themselves, to defend the race, to defend the people. But right now, the weapon is causing more mayhem against innocent civilians. There's no war going on. There's no identifiable enemy that is a threat to America. Ironically, the person that has the weapon is actually the threat. And he's shooting at innocent people who are by no means a threat. So here we have it where those that are threatened are not being defended. Those that are the threat are wreaking more havoc. Those that are the threat are wreaking more havoc. So here you have it. You know, innocent people who are not threatening in no kind of way are being killed by the threat. So the semi-automatic weapon, this AR-15, as I said, what gives? I mean, do we have to have a high-ranking lawmaker, someone sitting on the Supreme Court, someone close to the Oval Office? Does their family have to get slaughtered? I mean, where do we draw the line here? Where do we draw the line when we're shedding our own blood? We're chopping the limbs and branches off of our own tree, the tree that strengthens America. And it's innocence all over. It's not just, as if it was by design. Want the AR-15 to be designed to target so-called minorities in America. That's not happening. It's hurting innocent civilians of all stripes, of the entire melting pot. So as I said, until the threat exists, where the great Caucasian race is being threatened with being wiped off the face of the planet, let's stockpile the weapons. So, we're not saying get rid of the AR-15 altogether. Matter of fact, that wouldn't be getting rid of it. That would be, as said, stocking it, putting it in storage, putting it up for safekeeping until the day comes when every Caucasian male that's willing and able can get their hands on one and defend themselves. But that's not happening right now. But until the day it does happen, here at Soluble, that's our position. That's one of our positions. Common sense gun legislation to take them off the streets, make it against the law for average, everyday Americans to have semi-automatic weaponry. It's wreaking havoc. Was this weapon designed to kill innocent human beings? Because that's where it's at now. America's not at war with no country. The war on terrorism is over, even though we have a vigilant watch through our intelligence agencies for any threats here or abroad. But we're not really at war per se with no identifiable country. But yet we here in America, we're walking around, we have access to, we have a right to these semi-automatic weapons with no threat in sight, except the person that owns the gun. That's where the threat is at. If background checks can stop it, so be it. But as of now, it seems to be a weak deterrent, to say the least. Because it's still happening. So, I mean, God rest their souls, the 3 people that passed away here this past Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, from the shooting at the grocery store in Oregon, Idaho. Forgive me there. I know it's one of those states. But, we can do better, and we should do better. The semi-automatic weapon has no place in the everyday lives of ordinary Americans with them in their possession. The threat level doesn't call for it. There's no threat level that is going on inside America, a domestic threat level that calls for American citizens to have an AR-15 semi-automatic assault rifle. But as I said, if it makes the federal government feel better, if it makes the people feel better, because we do have the right to bear arms. But the least we can do is stockpile these weapons, or this particular weapon. This particular weapon, the AR-15, continue to manufacture it and stockpile. Put them in storage because there's no threat level inside the country, inside the borders. There's no domestic threat level that calls for American citizens to have an AR-15 or semi-automatic weapon in their possession. And right now, as of this moment, it's proven in time and fact that those in possession of them have only killed, altered, or forever changed innocent human lives. Innocent human lives. Let that sink in to anyone out paying attention to this podcast that are the manufacturers of this semi-automatic weapon. Let that really sink in. This weapon that you're manufacturing on a high regular basis is right now inside America killing innocent human beings. Innocent human beings. So, as I said, we can do better. We should do better. We should do better. We should be outraged. So, one of the best things we can do when you think, what can I do? What can we do as a country? The best thing we can do is vote it out because that's how our system works. The best thing we can do is vote it out. And if we can keep the House, keep the Senate in Democratic hands, it's a good chance that we can come up with common sense gun legislation versus giving Republicans back the majority in any one of those categories of government and turning back the hands of time or keeping things as they are, the same old status quo. It's up to you whether we're going to go forward, whether we're going to stay where we're at, or whether we're going to go back even further in time. But right now we can all collectively agree to disagree that this AR-15 semi-automatic weapon is wreaking havoc on innocent lives. Innocent lives. Once again, no threat level calls for it. No threat level calls for Americans to possess them. But yet we have them. They spill over. And they wreak havoc on innocent lives. Innocent. So, lobby for a stockpile. Lobby for the continued manufacturing of said weapon, AR-15, but also lobby for the stockpile. Anybody who's paying attention out there tonight to Soluble, if you're in government, if you want to get active, that's what we need to be. We need to be lobbying for not a banning of the weapon, but a stockpile of them. The AR-15 in particular, just this one weapon. And, to go a long ways in stopping these mass shootings where good, innocent people are being killed. We would think that, if this weapon was serving the purpose of stopping the bad guy, that would be great. It would be serving its purpose. But good innocent people are being killed. And it's wreaking havoc. It's causing anxiety. It's causing America to go into a mental decline. And it's not good. So, as I said, we have to vote it out. Keep your sanity. Keep hope alive. But we can vote this weapon out of our everyday lives. And that's just what we intend to do here in November. Last but not least, one of the things we want to touch on here at Soluble before we go into, the left and rights of politics is the teacher shortage here in America. This should raise alarms on all levels, local, state, and federal. This should raise alarms on all levels because of our standing in the world with our worldly competitors in other countries. Whether it comes to math, science, reading, what is our standing? What will be our standing? If we can't recruit qualified, and that being a key word there, qualified teachers into the classroom. qualified teachers into the classroom. I think, as I might have mentioned before on this broadcast, Florida is like 47th, 48th in the nation for teacher pay. It's not easy. It's not easy. If it was, everybody be doing it. People would probably choose to be a teacher versus a cashier at Walmart or your local Target. But it's not easy. And then, as I said, to be qualified, it takes a certain level of education. It takes a certain level of calm or patience because you're working with young minds that's subject to be all over the place. But a teacher shortage in America is something that we really ought to take a long look at. And in taking a long look at it, we should do everything in our power to take the politics out of it and bring it back to what it was pre-COVID. Now, one of the best ways you can do that is to talk to a teacher, talk to a group of teachers, and they'll be able to tell you what they need or what it's going to take to recruit qualified teachers back into the classroom and at the same time keep them there. We will hope that the Secretary of Education here in the Biden administration will take this approach. There's no better way to solve this problem than to listen to what teachers have to say. As far as pay for a teacher, it's not easy. It's not the easiest job in America. I mean, it's quite challenging to work with a classroom full of children on any level, whether it's grade school to high school. It's not easy. And we ought to be rewarding our teachers. We should be, doing everything we can to support higher teacher pay. I don't know how the scale is created. I don't know what the scale is based on. I'm pretty sure it's based on some level of seniority, your education level. But teacher pay is very important, and we should consider it an important tool to bring in qualified teachers back to the classroom. Give them let's pay them what we owe them, because they're teaching the future. They're teaching the future, and we can't take that for granted. We can't take that for granted. Once we get past the issue of teacher pay and get that settled, we have to take the politics out of it. We have to take the politics out of the classroom. The kids are too young to have an understanding of politicizing this and politicizing that. We should all be able to sit around the table, create a learning curriculum that's beneficial to the students as they go out into everyday life upon graduation. First and foremost, that should be the most important. To come up with a curriculum that, as I said, promotes and helps these students to get to adulthood, have them enthused about learning, have them eager to learn, and the importance of shaping what their future is going to be based on how serious they take education. If we continue to go down this slippery slope where, we're having trouble recruiting qualified teachers, and we got unqualified teachers in the classroom, surely America will go into an intellectual decline. There's no other way to say it. There's no other alternative. There's no way we can go but backwards if we don't do everything we can to recruit qualified teachers into the classroom, and not just get them in there, but give them the tools and the pay that they need so that they'll have a desire to stay 10, 20 years in the field of teaching. As I said before, it's not easy. I mean, I don't understand what comes before. As I said, how a teacher's pay scale is created and made. But, we think it's something that should be looked at on every level of government. local, state, and federal, because it's a crisis in the making. If we don't have qualified teachers, then we won't have qualified youth who are ready to take on the reins of adulthood and perform the job that keeps America functioning and keeps America moving from day to day, month to month, year to year. So, in closing, as I said, let's rally behind the teachers. And the best way we can do that is by what? Listening to the teachers. Let the teachers they're the best ones who are qualified to tell us, the American people and government, what they need to teach, to be happy teaching, and to, shape and mold our youth into the responsible adults that we need them to be. Okay, that's pretty much it for, some of the things that's going on in the news cycle today. There's 70 days until the midterms. 70 days until the midterms in November. So, we want to always keep you aware of that, keep you on your toes. And, if you haven't already voted in the primaries, I think that's pretty much all said and done now. So we are, we're 70 days away. We're 70 days away from seeing if democracy and the republic as we know it will continue, will prevail against the rogue right. The MAGA rights, as I've said, they're out here. They're determined to take the country back. They're determined to take the country back. So backwards, if you will, backwards. So, with 70 days until the midterms, 70 days to see if democracy will hold or if it's going to break. We need your vote. We need your vote. We have a former president and a rogue Republican Party that's so far right that there's nothing, this former president could do no wrong in the party's eyes. And that's what makes this scary dangerous. Whether he's hiding his taxes, cheating on his taxes, whether he's bribing national officials, whether he's spurring on insurrections, whether he's unjustly lying about holding classified documents, top secret documents. This former president can do no wrong. So this is what makes it extremely dangerous. And this is why I say here at Soluble that we have 70 days to see if democracy will hold or if it's going to break. Because this party is rogue right with a capital R. They're gone. They're over the edge. Now, the FBI has released the affidavit like they, so badly want it. And it's heavily redacted. But how the Republican Party would look at it is there's something to hide. There's something there. Why is it so heavily redacted? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You have informants. You have spies. You have secrets from allies. These things cannot be compromised. These things could not be compromised because it will weaken America's trust, credibility throughout the world. But yet with the this rogue Republican Party, it doesn't seem to matter. They'd rather have an unredacted affidavit, revealing secrets, naming names, putting people's lives in danger. How far will they go with this hypocrisy? How deep will it get? Oh, it's lock her up. Lock her up. Now, the former president has top secret, top classified documents in some storage room at Mar-a-Lago, and you hear nothing. There's no chance. There are no lock him up chance that I've heard from the right so far. And as I said, now they have the nerve to they seem that they would rather have an unredacted affidavit that's name and name and revealing secrets from our allies abroad and all around the world in order to protect a rogue president. Secretary of State Clinton, she handed over all her devices. She gave up her server. When requested by the federal government, whether it was the FBI or whatever institution that wanted these individual things to do a thorough investigation to see if what she had or if she had compromised anything, she gave it all up. All the devices. Gave up a server. On the contrary, now, you have a former president who has told the people at the National Archives and government officials to whomever it applies that we've given back, we've released all classified material. And it wasn't so. It wasn't so. So the FBI had to react. And thank God we don't have an FBI that sits on his hands worrying about some 70-odd million MAGArites who might get upset and go grab their gun or whatever. So now the FBI feels as if, well, we know the former president is doing something illegal. We know he's doing something that he shouldn't be doing. We know he's doing something that could threaten the republic, but we can't move on it because we're afraid of his supporters. Thank God we don't have that. But trust and believe, this is the environment that the former president would like to create. On the campaign trail, he started talking about stopping Hillary from doing this or stopping her from doing that. If you remember, he briefly brought up the fact that maybe the Second Amendment people can stop her. This is where this president stands. He's looking to rile up and stir up to protect himself when he's corrupt, when he's doing corrupt things. He likes to call it out as a hoax or dismiss it as a witch hunt or something of that nature. And, to hear him tell it, let's not forget, this is a president who loves his country, but yet he's playing fast and loose with American secrets, with top secret papers, highly classified material. Here he is playing fast and loose. Did all of his children have a security clearance? Did all of them gain a security clearance during his time in office, where they worked in, top positions in the administration? But yet it's very possible that one of those same children, can get the keys to this room in Mar-a-Lago at any time they wanted to, and go in and start thumbing through documents, start reading through things that should only be read, possibly should only be read and gone over in a setting with other intelligence officials, qualified intelligence officials. Well, here we have it. A rogue right president and a rogue party backing him up. Notice the difference. Like, as I said, I haven't heard lock him up one time. What we have heard, on the contrary, is it's an attack on the president. It's Gestapo tactics. It's time for the Republicans to make a decision. It's been high time that they make a decision whether they're going to be on the right side of history. Now, they've dragged it out. They've dragged their feet on it. They continue to support and back this president no matter what he does. So we, the American people, it's going to be up to us to vote him out come November. It's going to be up to us to vote him out. Because you very well could go from the United States of America to the Confederate States of America if you don't come out to the polls. Because this is what this is all about. This is the Make America Great Again rallying cry. This is the dog whistle. This is the dog whistle. And when it's blown, they answer to it very well. They answer to it very well. But, we put them in the minority in November 2020. So here we are approaching November 2022, the midterms, the middle of President Biden's term. So let's give him the power he needs. I mean, you see the candidates. I don't have to keep going over and over, podcast after podcast. You see the candidates. You see what's at stake. So what are you going to do? As I said, what is the plan? What is the plan from the right? Right now, by all accounts, is investigating Hunter Biden. That's what we need. Is that what we really need right now in America? People are losing their homes. Rents going up sky high. Wages are low. What can we do as a country to help ordinary, everyday Americans and even our business leaders, the millionaires and billionaires, keep their standing and, to pass on good wages to their employees. So the last thing we need right now is investigations, because all these things are meant to do are stir up fear. They're propaganda tactics to get you feared, get you riled up. And at the end of the day, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. I mean, if you can admit to being duped, about Hillary Clinton's emails. As I said, at the 11th hour, here comes James Comey. Right as I was taking a step into the voting booth, he said, hold up before you go in. Here he is. But what now? He got his wishes. He got his president in. And we all see what happened. We all see how it imploded. So from then to now, we don't see nothing on the right that's changed. We don't really see a change in political tactics. They're covering for the president now. As I said, the affidavit has been released. And by all accounts from them, they'd rather have our secrets spilled out. They'd rather have an unredacted affidavit for the public to see in dealing with highly classified top secret material. So, what's changed? As I said, what's changed? By all accounts, from some of the major economists, the Trump tax cuts, they added to the deficit. But these are fiscal conservatives. So, we do well to, when it comes to climate change, when it comes to the economy, when it comes to push for common sense gun legislation in this country, when it comes to women having rights over their own bodies or the right to make the medical decisions they want in the privacy of their doctor's office. If we want all these things, then we have to vote Democrat. I mean, the R column has shown you. It's shown you. And, as I said, you have to study the playbook so you're not confused. But here we are right now going into the midterms. As I said, 70 days. Let's turn up the vote. Because the only thing right now that a Republican majority has to offer us is investigations. That we don't need. We need legislation. We don't need investigation. We need legislation that's going to help everyday Americans better their lives, better their mental health. That's what we need. We need better legislation. But lo and behold, buyer beware. If the Republicans win back any majority, that's where we'll be at. And it won't be in America's best interest to investigate. So that's where it's at. Do you want a body of lawmakers who are going to legislate, or do you want a body of lawmakers who are going to investigate? And these investigations, as I said, they go nowhere. There's no there when it comes to Republicans investigating Democrats. If it was, I would be the first to call it out. As I said, Hillary Clinton came clean with everything. on the flip side, former President Trump didn't. It's just that simple. So nothing's gonna change there. And if it is, let the Republicans come out and show their whole card. Let them present this change or what's going to change to America. Not just talk about, well, there's emails. Okay, then they get you, the American voter, all worked up over email. Get you full of fear that Hillary Clinton's doing something that's a threat to national security. Hillary Clinton's a clear and present danger. And after the election and she's lost, you never hear another word of it again. There's never nothing there to say. There's never an end there to say, well, after the former President Trump was sworn in, we continued the investigation and it led to, there was nothing there. Or it led to charges on Hillary Clinton and she's going to be in court and she's going to have to pay a fine and this and that. There's no end there that the American people could sink their teeth into to say, okay, they got to the bottom of that and they gave me clarity on why they made such a big deal about these emails. You don't have that because there's nothing there. Because there's nothing there. It's just meant to trick you. It's just meant to put you full of fear. It's just to deceive the minds of the simple. That the former president got a high turnout from high school educated only voters. And it's not to say that they're dumb or they don't know the issues. But what? What can we believe at this point in time? What can we be led to believe? Are there a basket or a box of deplorables or whatever that the former Secretary of State labeled them as? I mean, it was boo to her, wrong of her. It was such a sore loser remark from her. But then we had the January 6th insurrection. So maybe she was right with the deplorable comment. Maybe it just proved itself right. So, as I said, nothing's going to change leading into the midterm. Do you want a body of lawmakers who are going to legislate and legislate in a way that it helps you in your everyday lives? The interest rates are ticking up. Mortgages are in jeopardy. Rents being jacked up. Wages are not going up at the same pace as the cost of living is increasing. But yet, if we don't get out and vote and make this happen, then that's what we have. We're back at a Republican majority who is investigating nothing. It's just a waste of the taxpayers' money. They're investigating nothing. They're investigating something, but when it all boils down, when the rubber meets the road and it comes out in the wash, it's nothing. It's nothing to the emails. It's nothing to Whitewater. It's nothing to Hunter Biden. That could tie him to his father to say that Hunter's corrupt, and now we found evidence where Joe Biden is corrupt. There's nothing there. It's the same old tactics. It's the same old tactics to drum up support, to stir up their voters, to say, we got to get these liberals out of here. They love name calling. It's in the Republican playbook. We got to get these liberals out of here. These bleeding heart liberals. They're messing up the country. They're taking the country back. Don't believe the hype. Do your own research. What you see is what you get. But if you listen to the Republicans, it's just like on the Wizard of Oz when he shouts out, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. But the curtain's been pulled back. It's too late for that. It's time to be smarter. To look at it for what it is. Not just what we're saying here is soluble. Look at it for what it is. If you don't get out and vote and Republicans win back the majority, you're going to have investigations. Investigations. That's where they're going to start out the gate at if they win back the majority. So investigate or legislate. The choice is yours. The Democrats are legislating. The Republicans are wanting to investigate. But at the end of the day, as I said, it all boils down to what? Nothing. 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 So, that's the latest That's the latest in the world of Trumpism. Classified, top secret documents that the president or his aides or the people around him lied about. One or all of them put together lied about and said that all top secret classified documents had been turned over. Unlike Hillary Clinton, who gave up her server and all relevant devices for investigations or to be searched or to be gone over. But this president and his cronies have held on to top secret information, classified information, against the will of the National Archives, against the will of government protocol. And not a lock him up chance yet. Not a lock him up chance yet. This is the choice. So, let's hope that here at Soluble, we can influence you to make a wise choice. And that's how we try to break it down tonight. That's your choice. To have a Republican Party in charge come November that's going to start out investigating that serves no good purpose for ordinary, everyday American citizens. It only sets us back. It only makes us weaker as a country when you're investigating lies, when your investigations are phony, just to hurt your political opponent. This is what it boils down to. Just to hurt your political opponent, to give you an edge. And that's what they're actually saying now. As much as of a threat as this is to the country, some of the best that they can sum it up to is just to hurt the Republicans in the midterm. It is what it is. They don't want to look at the fact that if they were so concerned about it hurting them in the midterm, they would have talked to the former president. Some of these Republican lawmakers who are close to him, whether it be Lindsey Graham, whether it be Ted Cruz, whoever, to talk to him and say, look, you need to really come clean with all classified material, because if you don't, it can hurt us in the midterm. But since he doesn't do that, since nobody has the guts to approach this man, to approach the former president, to stand up to him, since no one has the guts to do it, now they want to twist it around and say that it's a conspiracy against him. It's something that the Democrats are doing to hurt us in the midterm. No. The president is doing it himself. This is something of the former president's own doing. The Democrats did not stash these papers down in Mar-a-Lago, stash these top secret documents down in Mar-a-Lago, and then set the president up to have the FBI come in and raid and make him look bad. Then you might have a case in point that this was all done to make us look bad in the midterm. But that's not the case. So if anyone is making you look bad in the midterms or hurting you in the midterms, it's your own Republican colleague, former President Trump, who is hurting you in the midterm. So, let's call a spade a spade. Let's let the responsibility here lie at the feet of the person who is actually responsible for this, which is the former president. But this is what you get in the form of Republican. This is their idea of, covering their ranks, creating this spin. So, come November, let's spin it right back around to them and let them know that, no, Democrats didn't do this to you to hurt you in the midterms. You did it to yourself. This was your own former president. And when he did do it, you didn't call him out to say, stop, this is hurting us in the midterm. So that's where we're at, folks. Here we are with a party that don't have the guts to stand up to one man hurting the country, but yet they want to be in positions of power. So that's it. In conclusion, vote. Let's vote in and keep in power a party that's legislating. Because I said otherwise, we'll have a party taking over and it's only to investigate. Phony investigation with no end in sight. Serves the American taxpayer no good. It hurts our economy. It sets us back when we could be concentrating on real everyday issues like climate change. Keeping the books balanced for a strong and healthy economy. clean water, clean air, teacher pay, things that help this country. That's where we need to be focused at, not on phony investigations. We'd like to thank you for coming out tonight and joining us on this political cast. We welcome any feedback, any opinion that would, help set us on the right track if you feel like we're on the wrong track. Because, here at Soluble, that's where we're at. We're always trying to find the solution. We're always willing to debate, negotiate, whatever it takes to get to the solution. Every and anything short of, bloodshed, physical violence. That's what we're here for. So until we meet again further into the week with current political goings on, current things that are happening in our everyday political lives, this is Soluble signing off, saying don't forget to vote, study the policy, study the issues, and as I said, it's either we're voting in a party that's going to legislate and keeping them in power, or if we don't vote, then we have investigations coming, phony investigations, and that's not what we need. So until further into the week, this is Soluble signing off. Thank you for joining us, and good night.